in. Boom.
Alright, I just DM'd Brent. I was like, you should hit up Hollywood because he would be great.
Oh, fuck yeah, dude. Alright, this should be good.
Right, left, perfect. I like when they make it obvious because I'm always like paranoid.
Yeah. Let's just check the levels real fast. I did earlier, but.
Testing.
Microphone check.
Testing.
It was kind of awkward to like look at each other
Yeah.
this way.
We can. It'll be like a therapy session.
We can see each other like this.
Yeah.
Thing, so.
Yeah.
I think these could be a little louder.
Let's turn them up a little bit. Testing. Oh yeah.
Microphone check.
Check, check, check. This is the exact interface I have.
Everyone has this focus,
Yeah.
right? Because it's for the amount of money, it's the best.
Yes, agreed.
And it doesn't fuck up. I have another one that it's a solo though, so it only has one input. So.
They really cornered the introductory interface market.
Yeah, dude, I'll watch like podcasts on YouTube of people who have like 3 million followers and they have that fucking interface. Like everyone has this
It's
shit.
durable. Well, that's if you're gonna make a product that lasts forever, you gotta sell 1 billion of them.
Oh yeah.
The way you sell 1 billion of them is by making the one that every single person's gonna buy.
All right, here we go. That was just a test.
Perfect.
Now we're gonna really do it. Boom. I don't know who's all watching this. It says nobody so far.
Yeah, we'll let it rip. No kids.
No kids.
No kids are watching it.
All right, we are live with Robert Tabet and the one and only Gizmo here in the middle of us.
Gizmo.
She's blocked by the laptop, but
She's fucking chilling, dude. She's a chill cat.
she is the chillest cat. People don't even like. I've had people come over here and like they hate cats, and then they meet Gizmo and it just changes their life.
It is weird how people look at cats and will just generalize when we all have met at shitty dogs too.
Yeah, of course.
Dogs get the
dogs-
benefit of the doubt. Don't get me wrong, I love dogs, but I met shitty dogs, but I've also met really cool cats.
Right.
I met one right now. We're podcasting. with
Exactly.
One, right?
And then people always have that argument that cats are dumb compared to dogs, and cats are stupid, dogs are smart. No, dogs are obedient.
Right.
But I've never seen a cat eat its own shit and then bark at the same fucking mailman for 10 years straight.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Is that smart behavior?
Right. Cats aren't perfect, but dude, a cool cat can absolutely hang with a cool dog.
For sure. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, we've living with my sister for years. We had cats and dogs under the same roof.
Yeah.
And usually, if shit went down, the dogs would run from the cat.
Right. Also, let's be honest, a shitty dog is way worse than a shitty cat.
Because it can cause so much more damage.
I've never heard of a cat killing a child.
No.
I've heard of multiple pit bulls
Right.
and Dobermans.
Killing
Yeah.
shit, mauling their owners,
Yeah.
or way lesser. Like I lived with this dude who collected sneakers, and I remember
nice.
he had this fucking signed by ODB, rest in peace, Wu-Tang Clan like RZA vinyl, worth probably $1,000, and his dog chewed it up.
Oh
Pit
my
bull.
god.
I know.
Oh my
I
god.
was like, oh
That's
my god.
as bad as killing a baby.
Pretty much, yeah.
Depending on how much he likes his fucking ODB vinyl, that shit's brutal. But yeah, like cats, I love cats. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've met some shitty ones, but I met some shitty dogs. I think most other, I don't know, how do you feel about most other pets? I think most other pets.
I mean, the big two are cats and dogs.
Right.
I mean, what else are we going to talk about?
Right.
Goldfish?
It's like politics. Stick to the big two.
Unless you want to get weird. It's
Yes,
just like
go
I know
independent with
snakes.
it.
Snakes
Yeah.
kind of. Well, we used to have a snake that was like a magician snake. So we had this aquarium, and we had no fucking idea how it kept getting out. Like just every 6 months we'd look and the snake would be gone.
That's
and then
not a good problem.
the second or third time it happened, we just gave up. It was like it's dead or it got outside. We can't fucking find it.
Oh, you never found it?
No. Until like 2 weeks later, my sister had finches. You know those little birds?
Right.
And we just hear the finches going fucking crazy and the cage is rattling and she puts a sheet over the cage. So we're like, what the fuck is going on? We remove the sheet from the cage and one of the finches is 3/4 away down the snake's mouth,
Holy
being swallowed
shit.
alive. And I was like, oh, the snake is alive and it's swallowing the finches now.
The snake is alive, but the finches are not.
Exactly.
Did it only get one?
Yeah, because it couldn't even finish swallowing it because this was a small snake.
Mm.
So it tried for like an hour or longer to swallow it, and then it ended up spitting it back out. And there's just this contorted, twisted up body of this poor finch laying dead at the bottom of the cage.
And its fucking brothers or friends or
Yeah.
cousins are freaking the fuck out.
Could you imagine, like, I can't even think of an equivalent to a human being going through something like that.
Yeah, you're just at a fucking you're at a family reunion, and then one of your cousins gets possessed by the devil.
Pretty much.
That's what, and then everyone's like, well, should we keep drinking punch or something? Are we gonna play pool? This is fucked up. Yeah, pets are cool though. I will say, dude, they're fucking. Here's the thing, like I get the whole thing where like adopt a dog or whatever, like people want to get. Dude, pets are fucking expensive though. Like, have you ever thought about how much money you would save if you just didn't have a cat? I'm not saying they're not worth it, but how much money you would save?
No, and I'm one of those people that I just won't buy them shit either.
Right.
So it's just like, am I gonna feed my cats top ramen every fucking day until the day they're dead? No, I go mid-grade. I'm not one of these idiots that gets raw food organic subscription from Chewy fucking Medical or whatever, and you're spending like hundreds of dollars. But the cat food I get is definitely higher grade.
Same. So I'm right there too. Yeah, like I get my dog like nice kibble, and then like I buy. So this sounds high grade, but it's not that expensive. I get her freeze dried animal organs.
Okay, that's
so good. It's good. You know, she's on the Joe Rogan diet. But like a few times I've looked into. There's two big ones. It's Ollie and Farmers Only, or not Farmers
Ollie and Farmers.
No, it's Ollie, O-L-L-I. But yeah, Ollie.
Right,
Yeah,
okay.
Ollie and the farmer's something, the farmer's dog, I think, or something like that.
Okay.
And they're like competing fresh pet food brands, and it was literally more expensive than my food. Like,
wow.
So you put in your dog breed and its age and its health goals. Which fucking dog has health goals? I don't know. And I'm like, I don't know. I just want to keep her alive.
I mean, staying alive for a little bit longer goals.
Yeah. Keeping her alive would be nice. And then you just kind of they break it down. Here's what they do: they break it down onto daily costs, and it's like $15, and immediately
a day.
I'm like, that's pretty fucking expensive.
That's crazy expensive.
And then you do the math, and you're like, oh, holy shit! You're literally spending like $500 a month to feed my dog like sweet potato shit that like I should be eating, but I'm not even eating for myself.
See, I mean, I'm not an expert, but I feel that's where it loses me when they feed dogs and cats like peas and green beans. Right. Like, they don't fucking need that.
Right.
Like,
but that's the thing, dude. This is how I know humans are like so stupid.
You're gonna feed your cat kale? Like,
right. The problem is, so like I remember like so my dog's 11, so I got her, you know, when she was a baby, and I remember for the first 3-4 years, my vet was like, you want to get grain-free dog food because grains are fucking bad. And then recently, I took her to the vet like within the last 2 years. And they were like, no, she should have grain in her diet. And I'm like, where the fuck did the grain-free shit come from? And they're like, yeah, it's just it was based on human diets. I'm like, so you're just walking around basically some vet decided that dogs also have to be gluten-free, which is so stupid.
That's retarded.
That makes no fucking sense.
No, it doesn't.
That's just what we decided because we don't know how to test shit on animals.
Oh my god, like a dog on a vegan diet.
Yeah.
Is there anything whiter than that?
Yeah, but that's what we kind of. And what's funny, this isn't funny, but my dog is epileptic. So I have to give her seizure medication every morning and evening, and it is actually medication that they give to humans. Like if someone is epileptic, they take zonisamide is the name of the fuck.
The same medication. Is it just like a much smaller dose or something? Like,
no, it's just human epilepsy medication.
That's
2 pills a day. It's a full ass pill. And what's funny is I get it from like normal farm, like HEB. I just go to HEB pharmacy and get seizure meds. So
I'm sharing this broadcast out to the masses right now.
Great, let's do it. We've got 4 views. Hopefully we can stay entertaining.
There's people in the chat. I wasn't planning on interacting with the live chat, but if they're there, I'll take a look.
Fuck it, we'll do it live. Dude, this cat is so chill.
Yeah, Gizmo's the best. He's met the almighty Gizmo. 19-year-old legend of the cats.
Oh man, it's like if Joe Biden was cool. Just
right.
No, just kind of nodding off when you should be talking. Good. Where are the other two? Are they just in the shadows?
Yeah, they're in the shadows. This is the one, like, so when, like, maintenance dudes come here, like, one time, like, when they were doing real renovation to the whole complex, they were in here changing out things, and there's just, like, 4 Mexican dudes in here talking super loud with power tools, and she's, like, walking in between their legs, and they're just confused, like, what the fuck, this cat is? This
cat owns the fucking place. He does not give a shit. Very comfortable.
And then the other cats are afraid of the vacuum.
My dog is... My dog's inconsistent. My dog is afraid of the vacuum, doesn't mind the lawnmower. It's weird.
That's so strange.
Like when I'm in the backyard, I'm mowing the lawn, and she's just like watching, which I don't understand. So I thought it was loud noises. I think she's a Shiba, which is like a Japanese antisocial.
A Shiba?
A Shiba Inu. You know what the Dogecoin?
Yes.
The dog of the Doge dog. But I bought my dog before Dogecoin existed. So I bought her, and then someone discovered that breed and popularized it and made it mainstream. And now it's like everywhere I go, it's like, oh, Dogecoin dog. I'm like, yeah,
wow. Hold on, I think you're clipping a little bit.
Am I? Am I too loud?
No, you're fine. It's just I had the that. You're on the better of the two mics.
Gotcha.
That's like my main mic that I
Got
try to do voiceover and I do music on and shit. And then this is my old podcasting mic, but they both sound,
Similar.
Like
This
it's
is what you
good
did
enough.
the Ants Gourmet voiceover on?
Yes.
I knew it.
That's one that shout out to Maggie Mayfield that she did this voiceover seminar thing that I did like a year and a half ago, like right after I moved to Austin, or like maybe 8 months after I moved. And she gave me like a list of mics, and I bought that one. It's
nice,
pretty solid.
Dude, yeah, that's what it's like. Cause I've been making more sketches, and I try to get like involved on every part of like the production thing. But the actual hardware involved every step of the way, I have to like defer to people that fucking know. Like,
yes,
I had no idea, because I have like a nice boomstick now, but I just literally used whatever the fuck Hunter told me to buy. Because I'm looking at all these boomsticks, I'm like, I don't know what any of these measurables are. I don't know what type of fucking environments we're gonna be shooting in. I have no idea what this shit means. Same with cameras. I don't know if you know this. There's like if you're part of the producer program on Austin Film Society, it's in Austin. It's this program. I don't know how you get like accredited or whatever, but once you're a member, you can rent any of their equipment for free.
Really?
And they have.
That's amazing. Oh, you did tell me about that.
Yes, and they have like 1 billion cameras. So I'm just like, they're like, what camera do you want to use for this sketch? I'm like, literally, let's just fuck it. We use different cameras for each one until we found one that we like.
Oh yeah, plug your sketch show.
Oh, the sketch show is that's something, and it's cool because we just started dropping. But already, if you type in that's something on YouTube, it's the first thing that pops up, and it's the Instagram as well. Yeah,
that's a big deal.
Yeah,
everything out there.
Yeah,
you type in my fucking name. If you now it took 11 fucking years, but now if you type in Ali Musa, I'm like kind of the first thing that shows up. But for fucking the first 8 to 10 years of doing comedy, there's always just some random like African dude.
Right.
There was another Ali Musa comedian too.
Really?
Way more followers than me. He didn't even speak fucking English. He was from like Niger or some
that's
shit.
That's why he has more followers.
Bro, and there was a video of him in some like a restaurant in like Ethiopia, not speaking English and fucking crushing. And I remember I would share the video and be like, once I can crush like this dude, I'll have made it as a comic.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
You said Nigeria? Where was it?
Like Niger or something. Something, one of those like Central African countries. I'm not sure, but it was like, I remember one of his videos had like, this was like 10 years ago, but he had like fucking 60,000 views. And back in like 2013 to have that many views on a YouTube, I was like, this dude is a fucking comic god.
Yeah, you're like never gonna be the best Ali Musa alive, goddamn. But now you're ahead of him.
I'm ahead of him now. I can't find him anymore actually.
Well, that's good. You should drop a diss track.
Right. Fuck Ali Musa.
The real Ali Musa to the tune of the real.
Everyone thinks I'm doing that cliche thing where people shit on themselves. You know, everyone has that thing. I said, no, I'm talking about another dude with my name.
I'm Ali Musa, the real Ali Musa.
Right.
Will the real Ali Musa please stand up? And there's just one other guy in the room. It's like, all right, I'll sit down. But yeah, for the show, it's cool too, because like when you're first starting to drop shit, we're like, I have a ton, but I'm just dropping them like weekly and chopping up clips. You have to take the little victories where you can get them. None of your shit's gonna blow up right away, right?
It's so annoying with the algorithm, and I don't get it. I know there's people who have spreadsheets, they have apps, they download certain software that shows them statistically when's the exact best time of the day, and then how to make thumbnails are a big deal. Like you show yourself looking surprised. It's almost clickbait.
Right.
It's like, oh, you're talking about nothing, but you look like you saw someone die.
Well, that's, dude, the thumbnails are definitely a big deal, and I'm learning about them too. What's so funny is YouTube is like, it's slowly just ramping up, even though it's the one that we've been like focusing on. Instagram is like going well, and I know it's going well because there's continuous plays like bleeding out. I still get like a like or two on shit I posted like 3 weeks ago.
Right.
TikTok, I posted one sketch and it got banned in 20 minutes. So,
was it the conspiracy one?
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah.
TikTok fucking sucks.
It got taken down within 20 minutes. It was such a bummer. And this is where you truly it's just the whole thing about you don't know what's gonna pop off is so true. It's like, of the first batch of sketches, I was like, this lullaby one is my fucking favorite. It's so funny. It did by far the worst of all of them, and it got banned off.
It's just like with stand-up. My favorite jokes are the ones that never end up even making it into my act. It's like, oh, this bombed 6 times at open mics.
Right.
And now it's over.
Well, we forget how, like, well, I forget all the time, like, how eroded my sense of humor is. And I'm only ever reminded in the corporate environment when, like, people laugh at, like, normal shit, and then I, like, make a joke and people look at me weird and I'm like, oh, well,
right.
That's just my bad. I'm around subhumans from 6 p.m. to midnight, and this is what we fucking talk about. We just gross, fucked up shit.
Yeah.
That's what just pops in our head first. It's just what happens.
Right. Yeah, with the whole algorithm thing, though, it's so fucking annoying because, like, lately, I don't like doing it because it burns material, and I want to perform, and I want to just end up getting a reputation and bookers, you know, not believing in me, but like I send out videos and I get booked based on that. I don't want to just post 10,000. I look at people's Instagram, their whole Instagram is just clips. And that's not me. I'm not against it, but it's just not for me. I was like, all right, I'm going to start doing it again. Just in the last 2 days, I posted 2 pretty good clips and they've gotten like nothing.
Right.
And then I posted a clip of me looking at the fucking eclipse.
Yep.
And it got like 3,000 views in like 20 minutes. And I'm like, this is bullshit.
Yes. And the thing, I get what you're saying too, because my like foolish, like, but maybe not foolish dream is to be able to play in different cities without burning any of my material. That's what I'm hoping the sketches will do. Get me to a point where I have enough of a following. And then people will be like, okay, you know, because this happens all the time. People get a following off a show and then they do a tour and their act sucks.
Yes.
And I'm like, let me just do not the opposite, but the way better version of that, where you can book me, but then I actually have cared about stand-up. So it's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
You know, people show up. My sketches are a little weird, so hopefully the people that like it won't be appalled by like the content of the people that I'm coming on tour with, right?
Right.
And then I don't have to burn any of my material, because the disappointing part, and I don't know about you if you've ever been booked on these guys that post a lot of their comedy, is like, oh dude, your whole act is, it's not like the joke is burned and then they don't do it anymore. They still do it in their act. They're not burning their material because it pops up and then it stays in their act, where I'm like,
right.
Fuck, dude, this shit, eventually you're gonna have your entire first hour on Instagram, and then what? You're gonna do a special of all your material?
I mean, that's where we're headed, I guess.
Right. And there is a comedian I really like, and I'm not going to drop his name because A, he's big, and B, I don't want to shit on him because I really, really like him, but that he released his first special, and so much of it was already on Instagram and YouTube. And it's cool because that's what I found him through, but at the end of the day, his special was disappointing only because I'm like, I've already heard
this.
It's like when artists back in the day used to drop special or singles on the radio, and then you're like, okay, this is gonna be awesome, can't wait for their CD, and then you buy the Panic at the Disco CD and you've already heard all the singles on the radio. You're like, well, this is nothing.
Yeah.
It's a bummer.
It's an annoying thing to be in because it's just like, it's almost required in order to have any significant pull in today's modern stand-up. It's like clips going viral. So I like what you're doing, having a sketch show, and I've been trying to do it. Like I kind of stopped doing it lately, but I was doing that Fucked Up Cars of Austin.
Right.
I do this podcast. I try to game sometimes at night and stuff, and then to create little stupid short videos, YouTube shorts. And I'm like, maybe if those start just getting traction, and then I'll take it a little further, get more creative, I'll get booked on that, kind of like these other people get booked.
Right.
But then I have an actual act to back it up on stage.
And
I'm not mad at the people. Like for a while I was, and that's a big complaint comedians have. They're just like these fucking TikTokers and Instagram Reels people. They don't even do stand up in their headlining. But I'm like, they can pull people into the club, and that's on them. That's a hill they want to die on.
Yeah.
Or they do fine at it because they have a bunch of fucking fans that don't care that they're not really that good at stand up.
Right. And here's the thing too.
And they're not stopping us from doing anything.
100%. And here's the thing too. By the way, they're headlining. Not because they think that they should be headlining. They're headlining because they want money. Like, I think a lot of people are like, I can't believe they think they should be. You don't know what they think. I think a lot of these guys think, hey, that's a huge paycheck. I'll go do that. If you've met a lot of entertainers, right, and people that are like big, you know, when you're in comedy, especially in Austin, people just are coming in and out of the city all the time. But I don't know about you. If I had to make a pie chart of their personalities. Like, yeah, there's a big chunk that's like narcissistic, like I think I'm the shit, but there's a giant chunk, like over half are like not nearly as happy as I thought. They're like depressed and
Oh,
like,
yeah.
not doing well. So
Right.
clearly they're not walking around like, oh, I'm the shit, I should be headlining. It's like, no, you're projecting your own feelings towards those people. They're probably depressed like a lot of us are, and they're just taking the fucking paycheck. That's why
Yes.
they're headlining. It's not as deep as you want to make it. They're
They're
gonna get,
finally doing something with their life.
yes,
You know?
you know what? It's not gonna last either. That's the thing. It's like a lot of people forget that the market is temporarily unfair.
Oh yeah, dude, I want you to talk about this. You said something that I mentioned to several other comedians about the bubble.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very
Mm-hmm.
unique way to look at it. And
Right.
I've thought about it a lot lately, about
Yeah.
how it's not sustainable
No.
with this influx of just, not even hobbyists, just people that don't even really do
Right.
stand-up. They just have this weird idea in their head that the mothership, Kill Tony, Austin, Texas, I'm funny, comedy's addicting, I just started doing it. And that's fine in a sense, but when you get that by like, shit, I want to say the dozens, but probably by the hundreds at this point,
Right.
and just naturally something as difficult as stand-up and as long as it takes to get good at, a lot of those people are going to drop off,
Right.
and you had that, just explain what you said to me.
Right. Well, so here's the thing. I've been in crypto since 2011, and also I was talking to this about with you. I'm in real estate, home building, and I flipped sports cards during COVID. And what I just named are three of the biggest bubbles in recent memory, right? Over the last decade, those are three. If you didn't know what the sports card bubble was, look it up in 2019. It was stupid, right? But here's the thing. It's the exact same behavior from human beings across the board, and it's happening right now in comedy. And the number one rule of a bubble popping is a bubble never pops when people are anticipating bubble popping. It just happens, right? And what's starting to happen is the reward system is drying up. So people are moving to Austin with this weird facade of like what's going to happen with comedy. And this is what I was talking about right before I did this is all of this entertainment and the reward system, a lot of it is temporarily unfair, but in the long run, it remains fair because only the right things stick, right?
Yeah.
And only things that you're having fun with will last a long time. Fun is the only form of longevity. If things stop, if you're not doing things for a while, it's because you're not having fun with it, right? So what I think is happening, and I called this right before this year happened with my buddies, I was like, this year's gonna be depressing because this is when the bubble starts popping. More and more people are going to move here. There's going to be less and less stage time. Who knows? This is going to sound like a crazy prediction, but you just never know. This is part of bubble popping. Clubs might start closing. Shows get canceled all the fucking time. The good talent leaves.
Well, we've seen some small clubs already close.
Right. Well, it's actually you're right. It's actually already kind of happening.
Yes.
And ultimately, what's going to start happening is there's going to be this weird swirling of like a very low level of like talent that continues to get stage time. And what that's going to do is it's going to wear on the audience members that take a risk to go see comedy.
Yes.
So then what's going to happen is the popularity at the mothership will stay because that's like the creme de la creme.
Yes.
But it will bleed to everything else because what ultimately is the foundation of everything else around it is rubbing elbows and people moving here to play games.
Yes.
And when you play games, it's actually the audience that suffers. And this is another epiphany I had is where are all these new people coming? Now, a lot of these people are like kind of already in Austin. I think it's because they go to these comedy shows and then like 1% of the audience goes home going, well, I think I can do comedy. If that's just all it is, then I can fucking do comedy.
That's the biggest thing is like, and I mean,
Kill Tony pulls people from the audience.
Yes.
Like, it's already basically, it's gonna be
I almost said they're not even wrong necessarily.
No, they're really not.
In real comparison to the average person, because I have this theory, not even a theory, I feel like that the funniest people that could ever do stand-up don't even ever attempt it. If you just statistically and per capita, the amount of funny people you meet that if they put their fucking foot down and tried for like 7 years, they could be funnier than most working comics right now. They're just never gonna do it.
Well, they're in it for a lot of these people are in it for the wrong reasons. So that's why then they get put in the forefront. And here's the thing that people don't really it's not lost on people. It's like the audience is smart. The audience will see what's up, and you hear the different types of laughter, right? Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've been on a show, and I'll use you as an example so I don't stroke my own dick, but I watch you, right? The laughs sound different when you're on stage than 20 other names I could name.
Right.
Because you know what you're doing. And a lot of times I'll be on a show with someone, then we'll be talking about it after, and then someone else will come up and be like, how was the show? The person I'm talking to will be like, oh, I crushed. And it's like, man, you're using that word. You're using that word kind of flippantly. It's because, again, part of the bubble popping is the standards start being raised as the popularity gets higher and higher, right? And as the standards get lower while the popularity gets higher, ultimately that makes the bubble go because people will stop losing interest.
Is there any group of people more delusional than stand-up comedians?
Maybe, and close, maybe like rappers.
Because and I started as a rapper,
yes,
so I'm
yes. Because the reward system for rapper, like, but I will say, popping on Kill Tony and being a SoundCloud rapper is very, very, very close because you can get an insane amount of reward thrown your way.
And it's so close too because SoundCloud started doing this thing like 10 years ago where songs are all a minute 50 now.
Yes.
Have you seen that?
Yep.
There's like no hook. There's no fucking second verse.
Yep.
It's just like it starts off maybe with the hook and then there's like a 16 bar and then the song plays out and then it's over. I'm like, and it goes monster viral. I'm like, it's not even a 2-minute song.
Yes, well, it's because now people are listening to their music on their phone a lot of times with like no headphones. Like the music listening experience has deteriorated, and it's because people aren't having this foundation of like truly listening, loving to listen to music. Like I still love putting on an album and like driving around and like listening to the album. But if you were to survey 100 random people across all age groups, all age levels, and be like, do you prefer listening to a song or an album? I'd say, I don't even know how many people would say a song, dude. Most of them would say a song. Because that's just the experience. Like, I like the album, most people like the song, and then if that's people's preference, then that's just at the foundation of their fucking attention span, and from there, that's just how they want to listen to music.
And that's the world now, though, with just the short attention span, just quick TikTok, Reels, short videos, and I've fallen for it too. Like, I get kind of like annoyed when someone sends me a video. Like, I had a friend who sent me like a video, and it was like 16 minutes long.
Right.
I was like, are you a fucking lunatic?
Right. I mean, I'm like, what the fuck is it if it's like 4 minutes? But the thing is, I consume it myself. I will consume longer videos, but if someone says...
Yeah, but then I'll watch a whole fucking series in 2 days.
Right.
Or I've been sitting here watching Shogun at night, literally 56-minute episodes. I watched 2 back-to-back in the night, but then I'll get mad at a 5-minute video that someone sends me.
Right. I want to pick my long videos.
Yeah.
Don't send me the long videos. Because, a lot of it is like, I'll watch it when I'm in the state of mind and I have the time to watch. A lot of times people send it to me at like 1 p.m. I'm like, I'm not going to watch this 6-minute YouTube video at 1 p.m., dude. That's just not what I want.
Right. It has to be for a right amount of time, like a time of day or night. It's like when I'm out doing shit, like, I'm sorry, I can watch a quick reel or a quick, just stand-up clip or whatever, but I'm not watching anything that's several minutes long in the middle of the day.
Well, that's also going back, this is why the music is what it is, because music is now kind of being shuffled into this giant umbrella of the time that we put aside just for consumption in general, like entertainment consumption. Whereas like growing up when I was a kid, not to date myself, it's like, I'm gonna go listen to music. So that's the thing that you're gonna go do. Now it's like, I'm gonna be on my phone, right? So what is that? That could be music, that could be YouTube, that could be Instagram, that could be TikTok. The only time where you're just listening to music is probably the gym.
That's, for me it is.
Gym or driving around in
driving and the gym, that's it.
Right.
I mean, sometimes, even at home, if I'm like cleaning or just hanging out here, it's usually a podcast.
Right, I was about to say,
movie or something.
When you're driving around, like now podcasts are the immigrants of the fucking music listening world because they've taken over, and now podcasting is what's taking over the music listening time, right? So the reason music is the way it is now is because it has to survive that way. Now, there are artists that were lucky enough to get in early that can still drop full-length albums that people will listen to. Like even as Kendrick Lamar, I'll listen to a Kendrick album. People listen to a Kendrick album, but that's just because they established their fan base off of albums.
It's hard to break into it now.
Yes, because your fan base only wants specific things from you, right? they won't really break their perception of like how to consume your shit. That's why a lot of times when like, you know, a comedian will like drop like a movie, it fails because it's like, yeah, I love Sebastian Maniscalco, but I'm not gonna fucking watch The Irishman just because
Oh my
he's in
God.
there. You know what I'm talking about?
It took me 3 sittings to finish The Irishman.
Right, exactly. And that's a Scorsese movie, and that's a guy that's established himself off movies.
Yeah.
And even you're still like, I can't watch that shit.
It took me because was it 3.5 hours? I
Right.
watched about an hour, wasn't too into it, then watched another hour, and then watched like the final hour and a half. And I
Right.
was like, this is taking me 3 days to watch a fucking movie.
Right, and but that's the thing. That's you like. That's why I'm really not wavering on how I'm gonna drop these sketches because once you condition and almost like this sounds bad, but like train your audience to consume your material in a certain way, it's hard to like break out. Right? Do I have ideas and could I follow the trends of the shit that you can do in 20 seconds? Easily, dude. A lot of my stand-up material is just current events, so it's easy. It would be easy for me to go on TikTok or stuff, see the trends and do it, but I want to have an audience that will watch a 2 to 3 minute sketch. Because or else, dude, you're gonna have what happened with Bert Kreischer, right? He's you know, he has he's a touring comedian.
Bert, man.
But he dropped a movie that was based on his most famous bit. So
And it was personally, it was like 5 years too late. Like
Right.
Machine had peaked in like
Right.
2016.
right, and it was a massive flop because everyone's like, well, you know, not everybody. I don't know if everyone likes Bert, but
Most
even-
people don't like
most
him.
people don't like him, but he's still massively popular, and even all his fans were like, "Well, we're not gonna watch a movie on Bert because we like him for an hour."
He's fascinating to me because if you look at his Instagram, it's like still 50% hate. I'm just
Yes.
like on his own. Like if he's on
Yes.
if he's on a clip on like Rogan or on something else, it's like 90% hate. But even on his
Yes.
own personal Instagram,
Yes.
and say what you will about him if you don't think he's funny, I still think that's just so toxic and just I don't know. I just don't like seeing someone where the whole audience just is shitting on him.
Right. You know what's wild too is I have Apple. Do you have Apple Music or Spotify?
Spotify.
Okay. Apple Music has a shit ton of comedy on there, and they had an old Bert Kreischer album that I listened. I want to say it's from like '05 or something. And his material is so much tighter. I'm not saying it's better. Actually, I am saying it's better. It's better. It's tighter. And so that kind of was a giant mind fuck.
It was better back then.
Yeah, it was
Dude.
better and it was tighter.
Here's the thing. I've seen Kreischer live like 3 times. My buddy in Arizona, very funny Tucson comedian named Paulie Casillas, used to open for him at Stand Up Live. And this was circa 2013, 2014. And I mean, my opinion doesn't matter, but I thought he was funny back then. I don't find him funny anymore. Like, I don't laugh at him anymore. That's how I gauge things. I try not to say people aren't funny. I try to say what makes me laugh.
Right.
And I used to laugh at Bert Kreischer, and I no longer laugh at him.
Well, that's also the true testament of greatness. Is like so. The true testament of greatness, I think, is longevity. That's the only thing that every athlete, movie, music, artist, anything that you consider truly great, regardless of what you love. Like some people hate Tom Brady, some people hate Pema. Whatever you consider great, the number one thing that they have, and maybe the only common thing they have, is longevity. And it's
haters.
And haters, but it's longevity.
Right, yeah.
And Bert does not have longevity, right? And that's what a lot of people like really hate on him for. Like my personal favorite, and people will hate on. I love Louis C.K.
I was just about to say Louis C.K. is the GOAT, and I
Yes.
don't know why the fuck he's not talked about as the GOAT more
He's
often.
the GOAT. Well, I can tell you.
Everything, of course, the whole
Right.
jerking off thing.
But
Fine,
he is in his cat. He is so. Talking about Apple Music, they have all his albums on Apple
Yeah.
Music, and I just listen to him all the fucking time. Yeah, he's the GOAT. Louis is the GOAT. His albums are. He does this crazy thing where he will actually make you think during a bit while making it like just murdering. He has thought provoking shit that isn't like in your face or preachy, which is very difficult to do.
Right. To me, like, I don't want to say it's not even close, but, and it feels weird coming from, like, we're both stand-ups, so, like, I try not to be hyper, like, critical of people way more successful than me.
Right.
But at the same time, I feel like we have more of a, you know, like, who has a more of a, not a right, what's the word I'm looking for here? Just critiquing a comedian. Someone that actually does it.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so,
more like an accurate insight. Like
Right.
You're rooted in the art.
exactly, but I'm still aware that it's like you're tiptoeing a weird line when you're still trying to make a career out of it, and this person's a millionaire.
Yes.
Dave Chappelle, I think that he's another person that used to be funnier in my opinion, and I've never understood the GOAT stuff.
Right.
For me.
Right.
So I've had this comparison, like Dave Chappelle, and this is say what you will, maybe this is shitting on him. He's like LeBron James to me. He's a fucking legend. He's one of the best ever, but he's not Michael Jordan.
Right.
For me.
Right. And I think Chappelle is fascinating because he's almost done everything wrong up to this point because he was popping really, really, really young. And then he went to Africa.
Yeah,
for
he's only like 50 now.
Yes.
I was just watching Con Air the other day. Like that movie's 27 years old.
Yes.
Fucking Dave Chappelle's in it.
Yes. So let's put this in perspective. I'm about to list a bunch of shit he did. It's supposedly if you want to be successful, you're supposed to do the opposite, right? He popped off when he was young. Then he stopped everything, stopped being on a show, quit a show that was wildly popular at a young after just 2 seasons, cut it himself, quit comedy, moved to Africa, got objectively more attractive.
Yeah, he got buff.
Yes, came back, then started preaching and kind of shitting on trans people, and he's never been bigger.
Right.
How did he do that?
No shit.
How did he do that?
And I think his stand-up used to be funny.
I think, dude, his Killing Him Softly is fucking insanely good.
Right.
Is that
that's his best one.
Yeah.
I used to rent that from Blockbuster.
Dude, when he's the act outs in that are so fucking good.
Just the closer, everything.
Yes.
That's one of the best comedy specials ever.
And the thing is,
and that's when he's like 26.
He's purely about entertainment. Like this, a lot of times now when I watch Chappelle, and I still love Chappelle. I love Chappelle. I don't know if he would be on my Mount Rushmore, but he's in my easily top 10. And, you know, but it seems like lately a lot of his stuff is he just likes to hear himself talk.
He's like pontificating, and then he ties it all together, and he's so like smooth and just well spoken that he hypnotizes you, and it's captivating.
Yes.
But here's another thing I'll say about him, and I actually don't watch a ton of comedy specials, but like I'll during the pandemic I started watching when there was like nothing to do.
Right.
But he's doing a lot of like better versions of like open mic shit that I've heard before. I'm like, this is sort of hack, but you're doing it better.
Yes. And this is why I think Louis is the GOAT. Because he will continuously work on his hour in places that people don't know him. Whereas Chappelle is notorious for showing up unannounced in places where he's going to get his dicks up, which is fine, but it's a different process that clearly leads to different results. Like me and Alex were talking about this, dude. That special Louis just dropped live at the Dolby. If that's your favorite Louis, I wouldn't push back on it. It's still so fucking good.
It's so crazy that like he's still that good.
And what's crazy is I love his Rogan interview. I don't watch a lot of Rogan. I have nothing against it. I just don't have the attention span for a 4-hour podcast. But I will watch when he has good comedians on there. His podcast with just Louis on there is so fucking crazy.
Like when Joe List isn't there fucking it up.
Yes, exactly.
I like Joe List.
I love Joe List.
He made it worse by like acknowledging that it was getting weird. He's like, did you see that?
Yes.
He made it so awkward.
Yes.
I was like, bro.
Yes.
Yes, you are making it weird, but now it's worse because you're starting to talk about it and point it out.
He has a few of, by his own admission, the worst Rogan podcast episodes ever. But when Louis was on it, he said that he had to come up with this hour a little quicker. And I'm like, dude, you're just a fucking madman. Like, he had to come up with this quicker, and he did it twice. Once at Madison Square Garden, and then once a slightly different version at fucking the Dolby Theater. And what's crazy is I saw him work it out at the Creek. When he came to Austin, I saw him work it out.
A year and a half ago, whatever that was.
He had a couple bits that I fucking love that didn't make it into the hour. I didn't know this. He dropped about, I would say, 12 to 13 minutes of material that didn't make the special on YouTube, filmed. And the 2 of those bits that I was wondering why they didn't make them are on YouTube.
Wow.
So if you love Live at the Dolby, there's 2 additional bits that he posted on his YouTube. And one of them was one of my favorite bits that I was like, damn, I wish I had made the special. And he recorded it and he just cut it for some reason. But it's on YouTube in a separate
one. You know, it's, so I used to always say the 2 best feelings on stage is if you're riffing something in the moment that you're just making up and it fucking crushes, or if you have a brand new joke that kills. Those are the 2, like, tried and true shit. That's the whole point of this whole deal. Just, you know, iron things out until they're undeniably funny and it's part of why you're on stage. You make money.
Right.
But those 2 things are my favorite. Until recently, it's happened in the past, but it's happened way more here in Austin for me. Is when I work on something that used to suck and it starts to crush.
That I was about to
Yes.
ask you, and I was like, let me see where he's going with this.
That's
Yes.
my new favorite thing. And
Yes.
like Louis lives by that.
Yes.
Like he talks about stuff that eats shit at the cellar, and then
Yes.
he just somehow it turns into closer good.
Yes.
And I've had a couple of jokes lately that like 6 months ago would bomb, and now like they're like my opener or
Yes.
something that's almost closer
Yes.
worthy. And I'm
He
like,
said-
this joke used to bomb so bad.
Yes, he says he starts the bit at a point where he's just feeling the sweat on the back of his neck. So he starts it as fucked up as possible and then tiptoes back until it reaches the point where it's like working. And yes, that's my and a lot of times it's like the sense of like relief where it's like
Yes.
I've been wrestling with this thing that I know is funny. I just am too dumb. In my spot, it's like I'm not skilled enough yet to really understand what I'm
Right.
even like doing. And then it like works, and then you're like, oh my god, I don't know. Like half the time, like I don't know what I just did, but I'm just gonna do that exact same thing the next time.
Right. It was
Yeah.
funny when he was talking about his writing process and he'll write shit down. He said something that any comic that does it enough can relate to. He looks at something and goes, I ain't gonna say
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I have 30 of those in my phone right now.
Yes. And it's cool too, good to hear him talk because like you don't realize how next level a lot of these guys are until like you listen to Louis and he's like, yeah, I come up with 120 minutes and I put it aside. Then I come up with another 20 and I put it aside. And then I come up with a third 20 of shit that never worked in the first place, and that's how you make an hour. And I'm like, oh really, Louis? Is that how you fucking make an hour? You
Ridiculous.
madman, you absolute psycho.
Fucking mad scientist.
He's yeah, but he's my favorite. And you know why he's also my favorite? A, he took forever to pop, and B, he had a show.
He had 2 shows. He
Yeah,
had
two
Lucky Louie and then the Louie Show.
Right. Well, I mean, he's had like a couple shows.
He's directed a few movies too.
Yeah, and none of it at the time was like catered to like what was cool or like what was working. It was just
Yeah.
what he wanted to do. He's always kind of been like, that's just what I want to do. But it's fascinating too to hear like his comedy career. What happened is one thing that's really, I'm like a giant Louis nerd, but one thing that's worth like watching. I don't know if you've ever watched his eulogy after George Carlin died.
I have, but it's been a long time.
So he talked about how he had been doing he'd been working on 1 hour for like 19 years, something
Right.
crazy like that.
Yeah.
And he had just finished a gig at a Chinese restaurant, and so he's sitting in his car and then he puts on George Carlin and talking about comedy. I think it's George Carlin on Comedy. It's the name of the album. He starts talking about how every year he just does he makes an hour for that year, and then at the end of the year he just burns it and it's on to the next one. If you know Carlin, that's how it works. And he's just sitting in the car and he's like crying, literally crying, being like, why can't I do that? I have my hour, why can't I do that? And then he got on stage and he just started, he's like, I fucking hate my kids and I hate my daughters.
Yeah.
And everyone went, oh. And then he goes, you know what? I'd rather hear that than the same fucking laughs I've heard my entire career.
Right.
Just doing this hour. So he just, I think that hour he's talking about is live in Houston, which is like a 30-minute thing. And from there, he just started doing what Carlin does. And it's like, it's a testament to when you've worked on your craft for so long, the skills and the reflexes start kicking through in ways that you're not aware of.
Right.
Because then you could just start writing hours the way he does. And now it's just like he had 1 hour every other year for like fucking 18 years
Yeah.
or something stupid. And now he has like
You know
14
what's,
killer specials.
Interesting. I said I did like a little intro for this that I post on the audio. 19 years ago, yesterday was the first stand-up comedy show I ever went to, and it was George Carlin.
Damn.
Yeah.
Do you remember which hour it was?
No, it was 2005.
Wow. That's so. Did it blow your mind?
Yeah, well, I was already a huge fan of his. Like,
Right.
I started listening to Carlin when I was like 13, so I was
Right.
like, I was already a huge fucking fan. I'd even heard some of the jokes that he was doing. Most of it was new. He was just out of rehab, and
Oh,
he was like fucking 68 at the time, and he was talking about it on stage. And then he did his closer that I've heard before, and it was the first time I used my fake ID. It wasn't even a fake ID, it was just another person's driver's license. And then we drank Sparks. It was these energy drink malt beverages things.
The OG Four Loco.
The OG Four Loco, yeah.
Yeah.
That and something called Tilt.
Oh, I've never even heard of.
Oh my god. It was like 9% alcohol energy drink shit. So it's like,
Damn. Did Carlin kill?
oh fuck yeah, he murdered it. And
Dude.
I remember like a couple years later, I was gonna see him again, and I went to buy a ticket, and they're like, because I I was at the casino to watch like MMA, and they had the box office, and there's a huge poster of him, and I was like, Carlin's coming, I gotta see him again. Went to go buy a ticket, they were sold out, and then he died like a couple months later.
Holy shit.
So I don't even think the show ever happened.
Damn, dude. Well, at least you got disappointed ahead of time.
I was like, good thing I didn't pay for it.
Yeah, at least you didn't get your
I mean,
hopes
that's
up
all they
from
would have
the get-go.
refunded. Imagine they didn't refund it.
Oh
But, like,
my
no
God.
refunds even upon death. Fuck it.
Yeah, I think it's one of I think it's one of those like common things like with comedians now. Like David Tell, he's like he would be in my like Mount Rushmore. I love him, but he's like I get it if he's not yours because he doesn't have a lot out, but he's just like
Yeah.
the comic like just.
I used to watch the show Insomniac
Oh, that show rules, dude.
when it was brand new. I
Yes.
didn't even know who the fuck he was. Didn't know he was a stand-up. Nothing. I would watch that show. This
Yeah.
was like around the Man Show,
Yeah.
so that would come on after the Man Show, if I remember correctly.
Yes, but I mean, Patrice said David Tell is the most mimicked comedian in New York, and honestly,
Makes
like
sense.
he has that like silly, goofy writing style. But like a lot of times, like when a comedian is older, like Attell, and he comes into town, like a big part of like why I watch him is like he could die. Like he could
Oh,
die.
yeah.
Like I was mad I didn't go see Colin Quinn when he came into town because
Right.
Colin Quinn is like. He's like maybe the most underrated of all time. Colin Quinn is like he's like Patrice's mentor. Like he's like everybody like looks up to Colin Quinn. But if you
Yeah.
ask the common comedy fan who are some of the greatest of all time, they probably won't mention.
Well,
him,
someone that it's so puzzling to me because most even younger comics don't know who he is, but the average person on the street, there's an 80% chance they'll have no idea who the fuck I'm talking about.
Yes.
And that's Doug Stanhope.
Yes.
And he's super important and special to me because I've gone to his house, 50 fucking times. And
Right.
but I was a huge fan of his since I was 16 years old. There was an album called Die Laughing.
Oh yeah.
And it was from 2001 because I remember he was doing jokes about the Ravens winning the Super Bowl. And the cover was just a cover of a dead person, like a real photo of like a dead guy, like with his face decaying. And I was like, what the fuck is this? I didn't know who the hell he was. And I fell in love with the album. I thought it was so funny. And then I went and saw him live in like 2007. I remember I had a broken ankle at the time and I went into Club Congress on crutches. And then, 4 years later, I started doing stand-up. And then on DougStanhope.com, he had this thing called Funniest Comedian in Arizona, and it was a mock competition.
Oh, that's
Because competitions are bullshit. Anyone
Yeah.
who does them knows, like, they serve a purpose. If you want to
Yes.
get seen by the club, if you want to get a good video, if you want to be involved in the community, the scene, fine. But if you think it's going to be fair, and if you think that the best comedian's going to win, all that, just don't have those expectations, and it's
Right.
fine. So he's just like, there's going to be a panel of judges that are unqualified and don't pay attention, and it was just like, great timing, great joke writing. Who gives a fuck? Arizona's funniest comedian isn't about that. And then, it's still to this. This is crazy because I was like, not even a year into comedy, and it's still the biggest crowd I've performed in front of.
Wow.
He selected like 12 Tucson comedians to perform 1 minute in front of a crowd at the Rialto Theater. It was like 850 people.
That is so fucking funny.
And we all did 1 minute, and I remember I actually got laughs, and then he chose a person on the spot to open for him, like immediately. And this other comic who's quit comedy, who was very fucking funny, Graham Reinhardt, and he went as Graham Van Bach too. He was super funny. And he opened and did like 15 minutes, and then Doug went up, I just,
Damn.
I brought, I didn't mean to go down that whole story.
No,
but
that's crazy.
He's
Yeah.
one of, to me, here's what I'll say about Doug Stanhope. He's a top 10 living comedian amongst comedians.
Yeah.
When it comes to people that do comedy and are immersed
Yes.
in the world of stand-up, he's top 10 living.
Yes, 100%. And he's one of the only guys that I feel like is like popular that like it's like a reluctant popularity.
Oh, yeah.
Because you could really, if you want to be a comedian but never ever ever be known by anyone ever, it's so easy. You could just never ever be known by anybody.
Dude, he has like the optimal career,
Yes.
in my opinion, because he has like a cult fan base of the most dedicated. Like he can sell out like rooms in so many weird bumfuck small little towns.
Yes.
And I think he's like a millionaire, but he's not like
For sure.
Joe Rogan money millionaire.
Right.
But he can go anywhere and no one knows who he is. So he can live a regular life, has a devout fan base, is wildly respected. Because people underestimate that.
Yeah.
Being respected
Yes.
amongst other comics is like like at the top of the heap when it comes to.
It's so funny too because he's friends with like when you see comedians, their posse often are comedians, which makes sense because
Right.
you want to have like a little tight knit group of people you love. His posse randomly is like Johnny Depp and like Hunter S. Thompson, and like
Yes, I know.
you know he has
Yes.
like
He was
like,
involved in the Amber Heard trial
Yes.
because he was Amber Heard like punched or she like attacked Johnny Depp in front of Doug Stanhope and he
Right.
had to go and like testify.
Yes, that's what that's the reluctant part of it. Is like there's no way he was like, yeah, I want to be friends with Johnny. He just became friends with Johnny Depp because Johnny
Right.
Depp probably really liked him. It's like it's a lot of like you know I like Frank Ocean. I used to really be into Frank Ocean, not anymore because he doesn't release music.
Right.
You know, but Brad Pitt fucking loves Frank Ocean. Like he fucking loves Frank Ocean. I was funny because there's no way Frank Ocean was like, yeah, I want to be friends with Brad Pitt. It's like that sometimes those big stars just find like the people like that are like.
Well, yeah, and it's crazy with Doug too because like every time I would just like open for I mean these aren't the greatest headliners, but even Joey Diaz who's like higher up,
Right.
they all look up to and admire Doug Stanhope.
Yep.
Like he's like a lot of A-list headliners GOAT is Doug Stanhope.
Yes.
A lot of them.
Yes, and it's cool too because he has a lot of material. He has a huge catalog out there that will for sure be appreciated after he's gone. Whereas another guy that I think, I mean, this is a guy that Louis said he could have been the greatest ever, but he doesn't have much of a catalog. Patrice O'Neal.
Oh, of course.
But Patrice only really has like, you know, he has Elephant in the Room. Hi, baby. He has another he has his HBO half hour. He has his first half hour, which I don't know what it's called. It's just on YouTube as like the first half hour, and then he has Mr. P. It's not quite posthumous, but it's after it was good. It looked like it was the hour he was working on after Elephant in the Room, and he has that the whole Tolu part on.
Yeah.
It's classic, and it's like he was just.
Well, I remember the day Patrice O'Neal died. He died like in 2012, so I've been doing comedy like a year maybe at the time he died, maybe less.
Right.
And I remember Doug Stanhope tweeted, the greatest comedian ever died today. That's what Stanhope said about Patrice.
Yeah. And Patrice, another reluctant, like he was just unflinchingly and unrelentlessly like honest. He always just said
he would fuck up his opportunities by
Right.
going into like a board meeting with like executives who wanted to pitch him a show idea. And we all deal with unfunny people that want to control certain aspects of creativity.
Right.
And a lot of people will just not take the job, or
Right.
they'll just do it for the money, or they'll figure out a way to maybe change it up. He would just go in there and just tell them how fucking unfunny and pathetic they
Yep.
were, and just roast the whole room and then quit.
Yep.
And just be like, dude, you could have been like a millionaire over
Yes.
that opportunity.
Yes, he gets in. I mean, even by his own admission, he gets in his own way. I also think if he was alive today, he would
You'd
absolutely.
be the biggest comic in the world.
He'd not only be, he'd probably be the biggest podcaster in the world.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Because on Opie and Anthony, that like he has some shit on Opie and Anthony that is easily better than what most comedians will ever put out ever. I mean, that
Dude,
guy
those
on the
clips of
microphone,
him and Louis, that clip.
the etymology of.
Oh my god, bro, that shit was
so funny, dude.
It's one of the funniest clips in the
Yes.
history of the internet.
Yes, it's one of the funniest moments ever, and it's so funny too because like. It's
just thinking about it.
Yeah. You should look up. Well, look up Louis C.K. Patrice O'Neal etymology of the N word.
Yes.
And you'll hear how what it went down. But even Louis will point to like moments like that, and like he's talking about it in the interview he had with Bert, which was hilarious for all the wrong reasons. But a particularly insightful moment was when during that moment he said. He's like, yeah, making Patrice laugh was huge because he might have been the greatest comedian that has ever lived.
Yeah, I remember I went through this phase, and this was me just being like stuck up. Because I was a fan of Patrice O'Neal years before I even did stand up. Like I was I saw him on just episode like Comic View and then Tough Crowd, and just I'd seen him for fucking years on TV, and I really liked him. And then when I started comedy, he was someone I admired. And then after he died, like over the next couple of years, there was all these fucking comedians that are talking about Patrice O'Neal. I was like, you don't even know who the fuck he was before he died. Like,
yeah, you're that guy that walks up to people with like Iron Maiden shirts and you're like,
yeah.
yeah. I get what you're saying. But the thing is, dude, like, I feel that way too. Like when it comes to like like for me, I'm like a giant like Louis fan. Whenever I meet someone else that's like I'm a giant Louis fan, part of my head is like probably not as big as me. But I would never say I'm just excited to talk to them about Louis. But like when you have your favorite thing, part of that territory is like it's my favorite thing. I love this thing. So
you feel like it's yours.
Yes.
Like I do that with shows and shit too.
Yeah.
Like if I love the show and then it becomes popular way after the fact, I'm happy and I almost live vicariously through the people. Like I'll recommend them the show and then they'll update me on what season they're on and they're watching and it's exciting. But sometimes I also get like annoyed, like you don't know shit.
Right, and I do that with me. I used to, because I used to be a big music guy. I still love music, but not to the point where I used to, I used to get into bands really early, and then when they blow up, I'd like stop liking them. I was that insufferable, where I was like, oh, now everybody likes them. So it's same with like rappers. I remember I like legit discovered Logic on Dat Piff.
Oh my god.
Off his first Young Sinatra mixtape, and I'm like, oh, this guy's cool. And then he like blew up and started doing songs about like I don't want to be alive or like whatever his like suicide anthem was. I'm like, all right, well I'm done with Logic. Same with Chance the Rapper. I loved like 10 Day and like when acid rap dropped and he really started blowing up, I was like, ah fuck. And then Coloring Book, I'm like, I'm good.
Right.
And now actually I kind of exited. I sold my Chance the Rapper stock at the right time because now everybody shits on him.
Oh yeah, didn't he try to do stand up too?
I think that's how you
guys
can tell a bubble's happening.
T.I. was doing stand up. There's a few.
That's when you know it's really a bubble.
I'm gonna grab a beverage. You want a water?
I'll take a water. Cool. Is that water as well?
I also have seltzer water.
I'm good, just water. Is that little dog? Cat dog. Perfect, thanks, Dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chance the Rapper just got a divorce, and a bunch of people are like laughing because his entire flop of an album that like flipped his entire career was about how he like loves his wife.
Oh my god.
And now it's done.
Alright, so I wanted to ask a little bit more about you though.
Right.
When did you start comedy? And I also want to say, I know it hasn't been that long, that you're like, I don't want to say that you're a unicorn, but you're very unusual because most comedians I can talk to like this have been doing it far longer, like along the lines of how long I've been doing it. You know, there's a lot of people that don't have the understanding and perspective like you do at such an early, point.
Yeah, I don't know. I hear that a lot. It's so I started January of 22.
Of 22, so you started after I moved here.
Right.
That's fucking crazy to me.
Right. So yeah, I've been doing it for like 2 years, 2 months. Ish.
Yeah.
And
did you start going to mics and shit first and then watching?
Yes, and I sat in the back and I was like just delusional about how like my material wasn't ready, and then eventually.
And now you're fun.
Eventually,
now you're funnier than most of the.
Yeah, I'm like I should just go on stage, and then I start. And I was but I was always like trying to go to like those like mics that were like longer stage time because there used to be a guy named Domingo that I like love.
McKnight?
Yes.
Yeah, well, did he move, right?
He moved to Maine. Yeah, he moved to Maine.
To Maine?
Yeah.
Wow.
Maine. And but he would have mics that were like 10 minutes on the outskirts. He just
dude, that fucking, what was that place?
The Whiskey Room?
No, I did the Whiskey Room, but there was like that,
American Legion?
American Legion.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Dude, and he gives you 10 minutes, and then sometimes it's like
there was a funeral one time.
There's a Mexican kid's birthday party one time, they're cutting the cake, and I'm doing 10 minutes.
God.
But what was cool is like when so I would just, started January 22. And I think, I've spent a lot of time like working and failing at things, like when I was like 23, I started a record label, and my business partner after a year like stole like 13 grand from me and tanked the whole thing. And so then I tried to do a music record label again, and COVID zapped it, right? And then I was trying to build a schedule, which it is now, but like things kept happening with people I was working with. So I had a very good, like, I think perspective. What I have is perspective on how hard art is and how easy it is for things to fail, and you just have to like keep going, right? And I think a lot of comedians are prisoners.
Definitely pick the right thing to do.
Right. And a lot of comedians become prisoners of the moment, whereas like Also, a thing with me too is I've always been very like into like art, and a lot of times I remember I would be sitting with one of my best friends I still like make music with to this day, and going, I would be sitting in a room with a bunch of musicians. I was the only non-musician in there. I would just be writing or like giving insight, kind of like Rick Rubin style, like what certain songs need, stuff like that. And the owner of the studio one time walked in. There's a shit ton of people in there, and they're all drunk and coked out. We're all fucked up. And he looks at all of them. He goes, "The only person in here that's worth a fuck is Waboito." And he's just this Latino like fucked up dude. He's so really funny. And I just remember being like, that's crazy because I'm the only like non-artist in here. But like I've always been like drawn to art and like writing. That's what I like. So yeah, I started comedy January 22.
How long did you go to like Mike's prior?
To getting on stage, probably like a month.
Okay, so you were. I know these people that really milk it.
No.
I never went to. The first time I went on stage.
Yeah, I went on stage, and then I went up, and then immediately I was like, all right, gotta come up with like my first like 5. So I would just like sit and like always be writing jokes.
Yeah.
And I think what helped me early, and I don't know if this is smart enough, but I would like throw away jokes pretty quick. Like
fuck yeah.
Like just because a lot of people you see they finally get a joke that works, and that's in their act for like 2 years. You're like, dude, you gotta grow, you gotta push yourself, you gotta write new bits, and like, I kind of think comedians are like cars or carts in Mario Kart, right? Everybody has the same categories of skills, but people are strong in different areas, right?
Yeah.
From the get-go, I think my big was like writing, right? And I loved writing, so I would just love writing new bits. I didn't have like charisma or like confidence on stage or like crowd work or anything like that. I just liked writing interesting things, and so that's all I focused on was like writing. And then so like,
there's obviously a balance to it too, because when I first started, there was a comedian, which is a whole other conversation we can get into. You haven't been doing it nearly long enough to know about how many people you're gonna meet that just fucking die.
Yeah.
Like we meet way more people than the average just regular person doing whatever they do. Because if you take into consideration all the comics, then the audience, and then if you're trying to reach people online all the time.
Right.
There's this comic, rest in peace, Walt Maxim. He was like in his 60s when I first started. He started late though, because he started comedy in like 97 and he died in like 2016 maybe, 2015, maybe even 2014. I don't know. He died like almost 10 years ago. And he came up to me, he's like, "You're funny and you tell stuff that's funny, but you never tell it again." He's like, "I see you go up there and you do like a good joke that gets a big laugh and I never hear it again." And it stuck with me to the point to where I almost went too hard the other way, and I was like, now I need to really iron out these jokes.
Right.
And I went through like this 3 to 4 month phase where I was just doing the same shit. And honestly, it helped with like, okay, now these jokes are really sharp. But I kind of stopped writing as much, because then I was like, oh, I got what he's saying, because half my sets would bomb because I was doing new shit all the time. It's like now I'm killing all the time, but it's the same fucking jokes, and that can become addictive too.
Right. I find, for me, the way I like to describe it, because I think about comedy a lot too, and I think about my writing a lot, like maybe too much, but what I describe it as like finding the perfect size Ferris wheel. If you're imagining it, it's like you put a joke, right, and you like, for me personally, I have a joke, and every time I try one, it just moves down one more. I try a new one, it moves down one more. It's like, how many jokes do I put on the Ferris wheel before the one comes back around, and it's been a perfect amount of time that I haven't touched it, right? So for me, it's like, right now I think it's like 18 different bits that I like try once, and then I move it down the fucking conveyor belt. And by the time I get to number 17, the one that I had, number 18, right? That was the first one. It's come back around, and my voice has been sharpened through the other 15, 16 bits. And now I'm touching it again, right?
Okay.
Because I get like bored. That's the problem too. It's like, I'll get a bit to like 30%, I'm like done, when it's like, no, it just I have to try it again. But I need to try it like in the midst of like other bits that I'm trying, to a point where I'm not working it over and over again, but I'm revisiting it. I'm not just touching it and throwing it away.
Right.
So it came down to like being very organized with my bits and having like almost like a conveyor belt. It's better to imagine than a Ferris wheel. So I put it, and it circles back around. And by the time every time I try a new bit, I put it behind it on the fucking conveyor belt, and eventually just come back around.
Some joke, that makes a lot of sense. Some jokes, And there's different ways to express it and explain it. People are like, oh, you're not ready to tell certain things. Very true, but sometimes I can't even pinpoint it. Maybe it's just getting sharper on stage, more confident, tweaking a couple of things. I've had jokes where it used to eat shit. I just don't tell it for 2 years, and I find it in like an old notebook, or I just remember it randomly. Something happens, and I tell someone like off stage about like the real story, and they laugh, and I was like, oh yeah, I used to do that on stage, and it sucked. I bring it back on stage, and then now it works.
Dude. So I'm obviously not there yet, but for me, what I find, and this is a habit I'm trying to break, right? A bit will like be getting like really hot, and then I tell it once. And Louis, I hate to go back to him, but he nailed this. I tell it once with like too much confidence, and I'll like forget like what I'm even kind of saying because it's on autopilot, and it bombs horrifically.
Yeah.
And then I get scared and I put it away for a really long time.
Right, yeah.
And then I'll be like, it'll be like a night where, I don't know, I'm sure you feel it. There's like some nights where you're going out to mics, I just feel hopeless. I don't feel funny.
Yeah.
I don't know. So on those nights, I'll like go back into like the part of my like phone, like notes, and be like, let me just try to bring this bit back. Like it was doing good and I really got scared off of one thing, and like maybe I can rediscover my love for this bit and life because I'm so just dead end tonight. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's like,
I just picture you at Anderson Mill the whole time you're saying this.
yeah. Well, yesterday.
I didn't go yesterday.
So I'm part of the Sam Honors now New Joke Tuesday. So every Tuesday he has a show, and now unfortunately it's Tuesdays starting at 10 p.m. right? But because I'm such a fucking psycho, I got to Anderson Mill early and grabbed the first spot, and then drove back all the way to Creek to get a later spot on Sam's show, right? So I got up first, and I really wanted to work on my abortion story, which is a true story. It's not an abortion bit. I had to go take a girl get an abortion, but I still don't really know how long that bit is. Anyways, I think it's like 9 minutes, and I did like half of it at Anderson Mill. Completely tanked the room off the top and just fucking left.
Oh my
and
God.
I felt bad, but Mike was and I love Mike Hudak. You know, actually, this isn't even shitting on him. I love Mike Hudak, but he was in one of those moods where he's like, dude, you know what, Tabet, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna bring you up cold. So he did no material up top.
He either does 30 minutes or nothing. Like last week, I counted. I'm not making this up. He did 17 minutes last week.
Yeah, he was just in one of those, and I never fault him because the shooters Anderson Mill back to back can be brutal.
Oh my God.
And if you're fucking doing shooters and then you're hosting Anderson Mill, dude, whatever you want to do, brother, I'm ready. I'm here. I'm just grateful you're fucking hosting it. He was just in one of those, I don't know if he was in one of those moods or the room was in one of those moods, but he brought me up cold. I did a 4-minute abortion story that usually takes 9 minutes. Didn't really figure anything out, then just left the fucking room.
Yeah.
And walked into a show. But that show is becoming, I think they're going to get you on soon. But it's cool because the audience is expecting new material. And this is when I really start to see the other side of comedy, dude. Try new material in front of an audience, it just comes out different.
Oh, fuck yeah.
It's like there's a filter that's not there, and then when you're talking to human beings, you're like, oh, I can't say cunt faggot. They're going to be like, what the fuck are you, what the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah,
so
some of those like Anderson Mill and
just brings out horrific
I say insane things sometimes.
Yes.
Like absolutely out of control. Like there's no reason a person should say this.
Yes, and if there was a normal human being that paid money to go watch you would never say that shit.
Oh yeah.
Especially when you're working out a new bit. Especially when you're working out. What's crazy is trying out new bits at that show made me realize how many times I've probably thrown away a bit because it didn't work at a mic when it might have worked at a show.
That's what I've been thinking more and more lately. When we do these brutal mics, I'm just like, sometimes it ruins the bit because the room sucks so fucking bad that there's no true gauge of it and it loses hope.
Yes.
So you lose hope in it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, so I don't know, like it's weird because then a lot of the mics downtown there's just comics and it's just like you gotta find a balance. That's why like once you start doing longer sets, you can start to like work out jokes in the middle of a set.
Yeah, there's been a couple. So I've been lucky enough to do a headlining like 30-minute set like 4 times so far.
Nice.
And a couple of those, it was going so well. I swear to God, and you for sure you know this. It felt like whatever I was gonna say, people.
Oh fuck yeah!
You know, that's just when you're in a groove. And that for me then became like a little bit dangerous because then I'm like, well, that's how people just start developing an act that's not that funny because then they're just used to Louis can fucking bring it. He calls it cadence slaps. Where It's like a timing thing. You know, where you're just, they're laughing at whatever you can say, whatever, right? So it's like, I peeked over the wall and I saw the other side where I'm like, okay, there can be a point where in such a pocket, anything can make him laugh. I think the key is finding, like, in that 10-minute, you know, usually the usual 10-minute spot, you find a spot to try something that hasn't yet worked yet, and really put it to the test.
Do I compare it to basketball when you have nights like that though? Because it's just like you might average 13 a game, but you went off for 42.
Yes.
You just can't miss. I've had nights where I just can't fucking miss.
Yes.
I'm just like, there's no way I'm this funny.
Yes.
Like, they're laughing, I'm talking punchline laughs at setups. I'm
Yes.
like, this is almost throwing off my rhythm right now.
I remember that was the first time I discovered that was the thing, was the funniest person in Austin the first year I did. We were in the same group actually.
Yeah.
The first, I was like 5 months and I had no idea what I was doing, right? And
Yeah.
I had a 5-minute down timing wise to the fucking spot. I'm not afraid to admit this, and this is not gonna surprise you. I showed up 3 hours early, got a parking spot, and I walked around the domain rehearsing my 5 minutes. And then I got on stage and the first thing I said got such a big laugh. It was a setup to the premise. It got such a big pop. I was like, wait, what the fuck? This is gonna throw off my entire timing. I didn't even make it through my entire 5. The light turned on and I didn't want to run the timing, so I put the mic on. I didn't even get to my closer. I was like, okay. Comedy is not just rehearsing a 5 minutes.
No.
Do it. You have to be ready. You have to have weapons. You have to be ready for like fucking anything. Like timing is subjective in comedy because you have to work with it. It's a tennis match with the audience.
It is, and especially like, I mean, it's good to have a plan and to be timed out. I did that for so long, you know, but at the same time though, sometimes you'll come off as way too like robotic or rehearsed.
Yes.
Like
I still struggle with that because it's like what sets my timing down for me, and this is probably, you know, for a lot of people, I have to remember to make eye contact with the audience. Once you remember you're fucking talking to people, it comes out different. A lot of times I'll get out and I'll just start talking, and I'll just start firing jokes that work off timing. But then when I look at someone that's looking at me, it immediately comes out different. You're like, oh yeah, I'm talking to you. I forgot about that.
Yeah, also, it's a good problem to have if it's going well, because I've done like an hour a bunch of times or 45 minutes a lot of times. And sometimes, like, in my head, I have a whole listing of jokes, and I try to do it in, like, segments. Like, this is where I start talking about women, this is where I start talking about weed, this is where I start doing my Muslim jokes, this is the closer, this is the random shit that has no connection to anything I can kind of shoehorn those in at some point, and then here's the closer. But then I'll start talking to the fucking crowd, and I'll get thrown off. Now I'm doing something 17 minutes earlier than in the plan, and then I start talking to them more, and then I get to the end, and it usually, you know, it goes well.
Right.
And then I'm just like, I did 45 minutes and I have like 20 more at least in the chamber. So that's a good problem to have.
Yes, it is a good problem to have. And it's funny too because like I feel like every single time I go on stage with a very rigid set list in my head, that's when it goes the most off the rails.
Yes.
Whereas I'm like, okay, this is what I kind of want to do, right? I have an idea in my head, right? I have a 10 to 15 that I have down pat. But I want to mix in these things, or I want to try this thing somewhere in here. That's when the audience starts having fun, and then they kind of lead you to a new place. Like, the audience helps you all the fucking time. You have no idea what you just did. This is great. I'm going to thank y'all at my next show when I get to try this new thing we just discovered together.
All right, there's people in the chat. Someone said, thoughts on comedians saying you need 10 years to be a good stand-up? It's weird, so you're asking me, I'm about to be 13 years, he's just over 2.
Yeah, so
it's very different sides of the spectrum here.
Right,
that's not necessarily true, but it is it is and it isn't. So, I mean, there's like something about being a 10-year comedian that is like a milestone. It's like, it's easy just to say, just like there's exceptions, there's different, you know, measurement systems and everything, but I feel like it's easy for someone who's been doing comedy for 25 years and makes a living off of it to say that they weren't shit until they were 10 years in.
Right.
And, there's no set path, there's no set, like, everyone is different. There's some unusually gifted people that are kind of funny, like, almost immediately. Like, they're just good, they're charming, they know, like, clearly they're gonna go through everything a lot of comics go through. It's not like, oh, they just murder every set or anything like that. Right. But then there's people I've seen that they needed every second of that 10 years to get good. And then now they're great.
Yeah.
Or 7 years, and now they're great. So I think that it's not necessarily true, but it's a good standard. So I kind of agree with it overall.
I also want to say that something that I don't even know why this didn't occur to me because it's in a lot of spots, but the timeline is very much related to work ethic.
Oh, fuck yeah. So,
you know?
how much time do you actually, you know how many
Yeah.
comedians I meet that have said they've been doing comedy 16 years, and I've probably done comedy 1,000 more times than them?
Yeah.
You know, because it's like, oh, you were married, then divorced, then you got a job, then you
Yeah.
moved to New Jersey, and it's just like, oh, you went like 4 years of barely ever getting on stage. That's like, I always compare it to working out. Let's say you're a bodybuilder. If you don't go to the gym for 6 months, are you still gonna be in fucking competition shape? No.
Right.
And then there's muscle memory, so you have an advantage of someone at your weight who goes back in the gym and starts busting ass as opposed to someone that's never worked out. Yeah, clearly you're gonna get bigger quicker, but it's still not the same as a person that never stopped.
Right. And a lot of it too is goals. Like this or that pertains to, and goals are like pertains to like everything around you really. Like if you let's say, you know, you're going to the grocery store, right? Some people are there to buy food for their family. Some people like me are just buying food for the day. Some people are power lifters and are buying food for the fucking week and it's gonna be 10,000. What's your goal when you enter the space, right? Like we're trying to be great, I think. That's my goal. I wanna be great. But dude, the amount of people around me that aren't really trying to be great or don't really realize what that takes.
It's not in it for the right reasons,
right.
or the reasons that are going to get you someone that's
right.
going to make you happy,
right.
fulfilled, and get great at doing this. It's
right.
just like you kind of like the attention. Like comedy's for weird, scatterbrained. I don't want to say for losers, but it's somewhat true.
So so to answer your question, the tenure thing, it's definitely not wrong.
No, it's not wrong.
I
say it's a good base measurement.
It's as I think it's completely contingent on work ethic and what are your goals, and also unfortunately like what are your like what's your foundation like outside of comedy? Because if your life is falling apart, dude, you can only make it so far. Like the fucking romanticizing living in your car and like the starving artist is gay.
It's lame as fuck.
Lame as fuck.
Here's another thing, like, I'm a little bit older now too. Like I started when I was 25, I'm 38 now. And it's shocking to me the amount of grown men that are in like their 30s and even their 40s that still have multiple roommates. And I'm just like, fine if that's, I'm not going to knock what you want to do with your time in your life, but that's just not for me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, I've had roommates my whole life. That's like a young man's game. Like, if you're going to live with 3 other men, you're going to smell their fucking farts. You know what I mean? Like, I would rather struggle to get by and pay triple the rent that some of these other dudes pay to live by myself and have my own peace of mind.
Yes, because also if you live with roommates, their lives will bleed into yours, their work ethic will bleed into yours. The emotions that come with their life will start reflecting your own emotions. Whereas like if their life is shitty and you're living in the same house with them, your life is kind of going to be shitty. It's impossible to have a great life while living with someone who's living a shitty life.
100%.
It's simple. So for me, like, here's what a big turn that I had entering, this, second year or whatever. Like, I used to hate my corporate job. I still don't love it, but I am grateful for it that's my struggle, is the corporate world. Because of that, I can live by myself, I make good money, and I interact with, like, semi-normal human beings. And that's, like, pretty fucking important, dude. And we're like, talking about that earlier. It's like, when you're devoid of human contact, except for what's on stage, you become fucked up as a person.
Right.
Like, you almost forget how to talk to people without a microphone in your hand or around another comedian. Like, having to wake up, to have a routine in the morning, wake up, take care of my dog, put fucking adult clothes on, drive to work, and just disconnect from comedy. It's good to have a routine. It's good to be productive outside of comedy, because I don't know about you, but the more productive I am around my entire life, the more productive I am with comedy.
Of course, yeah.
Right? And then I'm excited for comedy after work. I'm grateful that I get to go do it because I was away from it for like the entire day, right? So it's like having that fucking dynamic where you're working and you're trying to just build something. Everybody's gonna have to struggle. Everybody's gonna have their own struggle. I would rather struggle with what my job is than what is my job.
Right.
You know, what am I gonna do today for money? What am I gonna do today?
Yeah.
What
It's
if
overrated, and like you said, it's kind of like I get like if you're like 21 and you just
Sure.
fine. But I meet a lot of guys, and the age has gone up. Like when I started in 2011, there wasn't 40-year-olds living in their car, chasing the dream, doing open mics. You know,
Right.
and I'm saying like that's fine if that's what you want to do, but like it's reached a point to where I'm just like, I had never seen it more than.
Right.
And we're in Austin.
Right.
I mean, like Los Angeles
Yeah.
is one thing, but
Yes.
I'm like, you're gonna live in your car in the summertime in
Yes.
Austin is insane to me.
Right. And it's gonna, by the way, it's gonna bleed into your act too. And not only
Yeah.
that, like this took me a little bit to understand, and it's so stupid to put it like that because I'm still just a little bit. So everything I've done is just for a little bit of comedy, but this took me a little bit to understand. If too much of your daily emotional successes and failures are tethered and directly related to comedy, you're gonna blow your fucking brains out.
Right.
If the only success and failure you feel is in comedy, because guess what? Most of that's gonna be open mics. And guess what? On shows, you have not touched the stovetop nearly enough to be consistent. I'm not talking to you, but
Right.
consistently enough. I'm actually kind of talking to myself. Consistently enough to know what good is consistently. So like, the worst part of my last 2 years of comedy was I lost my job for a month and a half, and all I could think about and focus on was comedy, other than getting another job. But that's just not a lot of time during the day.
Yeah.
It was easily the most I wrote and the least I was happy, because I was like constantly compulsive now. Like, okay, tonight I got a new bit, and it's like, dude, go to the gym.
Have some structure. Yeah, that's
Yes.
why I go to the gym all the fucking time, like 6 days a week. And people like, and I mean, you'll feel better. I feel like you think better. Like there's so
Yeah.
many. If you're trying to optimize your health, you don't have to be like annoying about it.
Right.
Like you can still enjoy food. You can have your lazy days. You can. I mean, it almost feels more rewarding when you do that.
Yes.
It's just like now I've earned a chance to be a fat piece of shit this afternoon, as
Right.
opposed to it. Like I'm not even gonna say names, but I go on the road sometimes, and some of the comics who I like and respect, I'm like, all right, for 3 days I'm gonna be a degenerate and I'm gonna eat gas station food. I'm not gonna go to the gym, and I'm just gonna enjoy being on the road and being a comic. And they're doing it too, but I'm like, oh, this is every day for them. now.
Yes.
They do this all the. How the fuck can you do that? Like
Yeah.
I would be so depressed.
Yeah.
Like
And I don't know also, like, and this is something that like it's I don't know how people are always drunk and doing comedy, because it's like, how do you remember your decision?
even when I was a big drinker, and then it got to a point where I had to quit, or I chose to quit because it was just like every day.
Right.
But even in comedy, I was still never like getting blasted and going on stage.
It's
I
too common. It's crazy, dude.
like there was. I mean, I've done it long enough to where I've had those nights. Hell, at Mr. Head's, this open mic, still my favorite open mic of all time to this day. Out of all the open mics, that was my favorite. There was nights where I went on stage and don't even remember being on stage because I was 26 and everyone was getting hammered and it was 1 in the morning. Like those nights are gonna happen. But once I started getting booked, you know, at some of the clubs in Phoenix and in Tucson, I was just like, I'm gonna have myself at a 2-drink minimum until after the late show.
Right.
Like between the beginning of the first show and the end of my set at the second show, I cannot consume more than 2 drinks. Sometimes I would go over, but usually that was like, at least I was trying. I know some people, they're just like, they just drink and drink and drink and that's it. Like
It's not. I know a lot of people like that, and it's not good too, because I think so much of comedy is having consistent goals and vision about what you're headed towards and what you're like really trying to build and what your act is, and spending a lot of time on your act and just being obsessed with your act. And you can't have any sort of momentum when you're fucked up. You think you do. You think you have momentum, but if you're fucked up all the time, you're probably not writing as much as you should be, or you're not studying your material as much as you should be, or you're not applying the changes that you need to be making to your set and your act as often as you should be. And eventually that's going to start destroying you. And then eventually you're either going to have to stop probably, or tone it back, but no one really tones it back, so you have to go full sober.
Yeah.
Then you have this weird epiphany that you maybe never really knew how to do comedy in the first place in a way that at least allows you to keep building when
Some
you're
people
sober.
use it as an excuse to get fucked up with other fucked up people,
Yeah.
and it's just like, I don't want to call it camaraderie, but it's just like, oh, we're all here several nights a week. being asses on stage. Like, this is the only job. People try to say, this is the only job where you can get fucked up and then talk about your dick. But I'm just like, you're doing a fucking open mic on a Tuesday.
Right.
Until you're Doug Stanhope or David Tell, shut the fuck up and get your life together.
I also think most people are funnier sober. Like, there's the.
Dude, I got way funnier sober.
Yeah. Yeah, because your thought processes are now sober, and I think most people, human beings.
I was just braver and didn't give a fuck more drunk, so I would say shit, and that was like in the earlier days. So like now, like if I think something's funny, I'm gonna say it anyway. But early on, just being shy and timid, sometimes like once I had several drinks, I was like, now I'm like real loose. So I convinced myself for certain stretches that I was funnier drunk. And then I remember I murdered sober and then ate shit drunk, and I was like, it has nothing to do with alcohol, and if anything, I'm worse on the alcohol.
100%. I think pretty much everybody gets funnier when they get sober, and it's just about how much there's an entire fucking death period when you first sober up.
Right.
And I know this not because I sober up drinking, but I stopped doing Adderall after 15 years of being prescribed Adderall. I stopped it cold turkey right as I was starting comedy, and it was so brutal for like fucking months, dude. But then eventually I just started one day, I'm like, oh, this isn't actually as bad anymore. You don't even notice until you're like, oh, I'm not that depressed and I don't have that big of a migraine today. This isn't crazy.
Right.
But Adderall was very difficult to stop.
Right. There's someone in the chat, I don't even think I'm going to address this, but it just says, thoughts on Shab being banned from performing at the mothership, yet there's worse comedians than him performing there?
Is he banned?
I don't think he's banned. I know he's not performed there yet, as far as I know.
I heard that Shab quit comedy.
No, he didn't quit because his child almost died. Like, he had like a newborn baby that almost died, and posted some very sad video thanking people for the support and blah blah blah, and then he canceled a fuck ton of dates. Naturally, your child almost died, you want to be with them, you want to be with your wife and be with your family. He never said he was quitting stand-up. All he did was cancel a tour.
Yeah. Thoughts on Shab? Here's the thing.
He's not funny. I mean,
but he is actually the perfect example of what happens when you get too much shine too early. The audience. This is what I was talking about earlier. The audience can tell.
Plus, he was like a famous MMA fighter on Rogan's podcast too, so he's coming from a very unusual place.
Right.
And I'm not saying like comedians only for people who start from the bottom and no one's ever heard of. That's not the truth at all. But for him, like, you know, to me, all it comes down to is he's not a good stand-up.
I wouldn't want to switch spots with him. I'm not jealous of him. I think I wish him the best. Like, there truly is enough sunshine for everybody in comedy.
There really is, and then people just need to realize comedy isn't fair, and it's never going to be fair.
Right.
And figure it out. Like, unless you fall in love with the process and be prepared to never stop, and then the pieces are going to fall where they may. And that's really what it comes down to.
And I don't know why no one has like realized this yet, but it's like it's never been more popular, which means there's going to be more sunshine. In my opinion, there's never been less like really, really good comedians. There's a lot of like crowd worky shit that is like not like really a defined act, and there's not that many comedians like that are like.
Well, I'd say there's more better comedians than ever, but there's so many more comedians entirely that the percentage has lessened.
Yeah, we're maybe talking about different tiers too. Like comedians. Like I'm maybe just lost by my own perception of like what's at my level. Yeah. I look around, I'm like, oh fuck, this is a lot. Like I call it the Kill Tony like migration. Like it's really bad out there right now on my level. But there's young like, 5 to 10 years in that are like really good. I think for being 5 to 10 years in. So that it's gonna be cool to see people's interest hopefully stick around. It's all cyclical.
The delusion level is insane to me. Corey brought this thing up that I never thought of. I think it's true. There's something called laugh ears. You know what that is?
No, what is that?
Where people are. It's almost a form of mental illness in a sense, because it's them basically hallucinating or hearing something that isn't there. So like we've all seen people go on stage, have a mediocre set, and say they killed.
Yeah.
I've watched people flat out bomb or get very, very minimal laughs, and they say they killed. So that's called laugh ears. So I think maybe not all, but there's some of these people I truly feel like, because I've watched them eat shit and then think they killed. I'm like, you're hearing something that's not there. You literally are schizophrenic or something's
Yeah.
happening. And it's
Yeah.
called laugh ears.
It's delusion. Yeah, well, now I know what that is, but yeah, for sure. I've done a lot. You see comedians on fucking mics all the time, and they're like, you're like, hey, you shouldn't be trying to crush a mic. You should accidentally crush a mic, but by like finally a bit works or something. But
right.
like, other than that, it's like you see them go up on the mic, and then they're like, yeah, fucking crush it. It's like, hey, God, now you like. I'm not saying I did, but like you definitely did. I don't know what's going on, you know?
Yeah, I like to each their own, but I don't even like saying. I mean, I'll tell like you or a friend, like, yeah, man, I fucking crushed, fine.
Right.
But like people go on Facebook and post, killed it, crushed, and I'm like, even if I had to set in my life, I'll just say I had fun, it was a blast.
Yes.
I'd never say, oh, I murdered or I crushed
Yeah.
on fucking Instagram or Facebook. That's
Right.
to me, that's corny. I don't like.
It's also you don't need it.
Yeah,
A lot of times, I think people say 'cause
people
they
really need it.
They
Like
really,
comedians
really
are some
need it.
lost souls that need
Yes,
that shit.
yes, and a lot of times they need it for the same reason they got into comedy in the first place, which is like validation, like external. They don't have a lot of internal validation. That's
No.
why they need to walk around they're projecting their internal validation by lying to other people so they can then get the fucking dude awesome. When it's like, just say you have work to do. We
Right.
all have work to do. It's like no one's even close to being.
You're never done.
Yeah.
Ever.
And that's why it's like so funny when people like cut corners and like try to like make it. That's just them deciding they don't have work to do, and that's like so. It's just bad.
They're
for
so
your head.
obsessed with, becoming relevant online and just. I mean, I'd say try to fall in love with comedy and get good at it first before you're just so obsessed with the attention aspect of it.
Well, the attention and the fame can get to you very, very quickly online.
Well, today, yeah, it's so weird.
It's actually a nice, it's a nice reward system for people that give a fuck about it because then they just get out of the way. Like the amount of people that just will probably get the amount of fame that they're looking for, like very quickly. If that's all they focus on, and then they never, like I said, they never had fun or a love for it. In the first place, so the longevity is gonna not be there, so they're just gonna get out of the fucking way. You can easily get like 100,000 followers on Instagram, and then you start getting booked for shows. You've never even like I say this all the time. I think it's harder to learn how to work at comedy than anything else.
Oh yeah.
Like it's way easier to write a joke than it is to learn how to work at comedy consistently and having like a process and being able to like think and approach it. And most of these people will blow up.
And then even then, like it's overcoming getting booked consistently.
Right.
So it's
right.
like even once you figure out the puzzle of how your mind works in order to come up with new material that works, now it's just like how do I get a system of emailing and getting booked and recommended
Right.
and then recognized, and then
Right.
it's just like there's a lot of people that are never going to figure that out or haven't figured that out, and there's a lot of mediocre people that have popped online and they figured out that part.
Right.
So there's so many variables and
Right.
it's just a mix and match of
And
things.
and I've always felt like that's just part of like your timelines, right? Like one thing that I am proud of with comedy is I've never asked to be on a show. I've never DM'd and asked to be on a show, and I've never showed up to a show and been like, "Can I get a guest spot?" And that's been nice because I've had like it's inconsistent, but they come in waves, right? You get booked a bunch and then you don't get booked for like at least for
Dude,
me.
people message me all the
Yeah.
time and they're like, "How did you get that show?" And I don't respond anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I mean,
We're
if
not
you-
the same.
No, and it's like Kill Tony comic level, like a year and a half to even 4
Yeah.
year in, whatever. But I'm like, I've seen you. You're not ready to be booked on shows
Yes.
like that.
Yes.
Worry about fucking the process
Yes.
and being funny and liking being funny and enjoying going out. Like your obsession with getting booked on shows is it's not going to get you far.
Yeah, and so what's happened recently is like Sam and Hunter, also Sam Hunter, but Sam and Hunter have this
Right.
weekly show at Creek Tuesday nights now, and then me and Josh Castro are now going to be doing a weekly show at Barrels and Amps in Georgetown.
Nice. I saw that you got that back.
Yeah, so it's going to be him and I for that one. And I was talking to my buddy, and I was like a little bit pumped, but I was a little bit like, I'm not going to be able to hit mics now. And he's like, you're fucking retarded. But also, like, welcome to your new problems. Where it's like, because I was just so, me, dude, I was a fucking mic. I still am trying to be a mic fiend, like hitting it all the time, working on my act in my head. I'm like, oh God. So I'm not going to be hitting mics on Tuesdays and like not on Thursdays now. Like, fuck, time to just like try to start working stuff in during shows
Yeah.
and see what happens,
For
But
sure.
that's a whole new set of problems. Like that's a whole new, You know, and the thing is, like, on 2 other days, Mondays and Sundays, I'm hosting a mic, right? And that's like a big amount of time. So like, my mic reps are about to fucking plummet for a little bit while I
And
figure out
it's
this
never
deal.
a sustainable, permanent
Never.
thing anyway. So it's just
Never.
like this is the new chapter where
Yes.
it's like I'm still gonna hit mics, but I have to juggle my time differently now, and I'm doing something that like I mean, hitting 3, 4, 5 mics in a night, as fun as that is, like you've kind of done it for as long as you've done it, and you'll still have those nights. But now that you're running shows,
Yeah.
and you're being booked on certain things, like that's, and then eventually you're gonna be asked to like do like shows at like different clubs, and then
Right.
eventually you move up to MC, and then like you know it's all a process.
Yeah, it's all process. It's all about having more love, care. Like I say the way I've always viewed like all art that I make, because I always do like I also do like sketches. I like to make music with my buddy. It's like accept everything and dwell on nothing, because it's like whatever you have right now, this is it. All right, what just happened? That just happened. Okay, cool.
Right.
What do you take away from it? I mean, I don't know. I'll listen to my set. I'll make notes, but you really can't dwell on. You didn't like most of the time I'll go so far as to say every time in comedy, as soon as you get off stage, that's when people have stopped giving a fuck about you. Right?
Yes.
So whatever happened to you on stage is literally what you make of it.
Right.
That's why people leave or like I crush, or sometimes people sometimes
A bomb will kill someone.
yeah, a Kill Tony appearance will stick with people for so long.
I mean, I'm not saying that's different, but it's also on the internet for millions of people
Right,
to see. Like
right.
I've had mics in the past or shows where I bombed so fucking bad that like even to this day I'll think about it and like
Yeah.
cringe a little
Yeah.
bit. So if like it's on Kill Tony, like that is a little bit different in a sense, because I'm just like that's out there forever.
It is, and it's out there forever. But also, I have plenty of friends that I like love, and I follow their career, yours included. I couldn't name I couldn't tell you where your Kill Tony is set.
Right, yeah.
Right. And there's a bazillion. So even that one,
Kill
like,
Tony, for someone that's taking comedy serious like you, Kill Tony doesn't fucking matter.
it doesn't matter at all. So,
I've used it for the exposure aspect, and you know I'm thankful for the opportunities it's given me, because it kind of has, and it, you know, I don't need it, and I feel like it's not gonna like it doesn't really matter. But there's days where I get recognized like 3 or 4 times in a day. And, you know, at the gym, people taking pictures. It's fun, it's cool, but all that is like ego shit. So it's like, it doesn't really fucking matter as far as my progression as a stand-up. People want to go on Kill Tony and win the fucking lottery when they've done open mics like 7 times are fucking idiots. I'll say it. I don't give a shit.
It's it's not. I mean, it's not even your opinion. Objectively, you're fucking stupid. And the problem is, if let's say you go on there once and you do well, okay, what's gonna happen? Either nothing, or you're gonna be asked to go back again. And let's say by some weird miracle you do well again, you're fucked the next time, or at some point it's not going to be like the ship is turned. You're going to get completely upturned and completely fucked at a certain point, and you're going to get fucking exposed.
Nothing is ever going to replace years of dedication and work and doing what you're supposed to do in order to grow your act and figure out how to do stand-up.
Right.
I don't give a fuck if 30 million people watch it. If Tony tells you you're amazing, he lets you open for him at the Taj Mahal. That's not gonna fucking replace repetitions and doing it.
Right.
It's not.
And also, by the way, and whatever, but Tony telling you you're amazing doesn't really mean shit either.
Right.
It's like no one person telling you you're amazing is gonna mean anything.
Like I'm saying, like it's pretty objective and simple to put it. It's like being complimented and seen by a lot of people doesn't replace the work. Show me how that makes any sense.
By the way, most of the time you get consistently booked off the work.
Right. And like you were saying earlier, it's very cliche, but I tell people to try to live in the moment and have fun and enjoy the journey. We all have goals. We're all just like one day, or I'm trying to headline this or do that. Like sure, I make lists all the time. I feel like it's good to have goals and look at them and read them. Like I'm a big list person. But at the same time though, if you're not enjoying the fucking effort you're putting in during the process and being like, all right, today was a good day, that was fucking fun, I'm having a blast, and then you're always mad about where you're not booked or trying to get this instead of that, it's just like really embrace the process.
Yeah, and also
it's life. You're living life. Either way, you're gonna be alive unless you kill yourself or get hit by a fucking bus. So try to enjoy it.
Yeah, and also the danger with comedy, and this is what I try to tell people all the time. Because I was just talking to Dizzy and Hunter Parker yesterday after the
Mhm.
show, and I love Dizzy. I think those are like two kids that got their head on straight.
Yeah.
You know, they're doing, you know, a good thing. And Dizzy was like, you know, how do you, because he watched my same show, he's like, how do you write so much? And I'm like, dude, I fucking love it. That's the first thing. I truly love writing. I write all the time. I write a psychotic amount. I love writing. I write sketches. I write music. I'm writing a movie with Alex. I love writing. But B, I always do my best to do the hard thing in the moment, which is just do the fucking bit and really like don't let your nerves or the anxiety of the moment, don't let the fear of the bomb fucking steer you away. Because here's the reality of comedy. There's writing before you get on stage, and then there's writing that happens on stage. And I'm not talking the writing on stage. My buddy Alex Ollinger is incredible at writing on stage, but I'm talking about what does your writing do when you get on stage? You're not really actually writing the bit until you start.
So you're speaking it into a microphone in front of people in real time.
And doing it the hard way, which is like bombing.
Yeah.
You have to like do the hard thing and really write. A lot of times you're lucky, and I don't know if this happens to you. You say it the first time and it like does really well, and then you try to replicate it and it's
it never happens.
Yeah, and
happens
you're like,
all the time.
what the fuck, dude? So it's just doing the hard thing is really important. Like always try to do the hard thing because that's really the only way you can push yourself in comedy on stage.
Fuck yeah. No, I agree. I think that's a good stopping point.
Yeah.
We went hour 40.
How much are these? How long are these usually?
When I do solos, which is it's usually like an hour and 15, and then guests are usually about the same or a little longer. I think the longest podcast I've ever done is like 2 hours, so this isn't gonna break the record, but
we don't always need to break the record.
No, we don't.
This
Where can people find you?
On Instagram at it's Tabet ITSTABET, and also the sketch show. Yeah, that's something. All one word on Instagram.
Fuck yeah. Well, check it out, guys. That is it. So until next time, kiddies, stay safe, stay healthy, don't be a bitch, and stay up. I've said that after every episode.
That's right off the rip. First episode you did that.
Yeah, well, I said that like off the top of my head, and then someone like repeated it to me, and now I say after every episode for 4 years.
Well,
yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for the live crew for watching. Well, there was like 6 people there the whole time.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Hell yeah, dude. All right, I'm gonna head to the fucking